What's up guys, it's Wally, and today we're going to be talking about natures in Pokemon. So we just got done doing a video talking about EV training and how those affect stats, and if you guys didn't see that video, the link to it will be right here. But in that video, we talked briefly about natures and how they make a really big difference between a Pokemon that has 252 EVs in a certain stat and a true max stat Pokemon. And in this video, we're going to get into that a little bit more. But we'll get into the video, but before we do, as always, if you guys are new here, just haven't yet, please make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. If you guys do enjoy the video, please make sure to drop a like too. So what exactly are natures? Well, every Pokemon has a nature that either has a neutral effect on all stats, or increases one stat by 10%, but at the cost of another stat dropping by 10%. There is one stat that doesn't get affected at all, and that's HP. However, both attacks, both defenses, and speed all have a possibility of having their stat affected. Pokemon are randomly assigned a nature when they're caught out in the wild, so it really is kind of the luck of the draw. However, in Pokemon Sword and Shield, there are a few ways in which you can either guarantee or change a Pokemon's nature, but we'll get to that later in the video. There are 25 different natures, 5 of which, as I said, have a neutral effect on stats, but the other 20 do increase one while decreasing another. As you can see here, this is kind of a nice little chart to kind of put it. The ones on the diagonal where it's attack, attack, defense, defense, and so on, those are the neutral ones. However, all of the other ones have kind of corresponding stats here. So on the left, you have the increased stats, so the one that's going to be raised by 10%, and the ones across the top are the decreased stats, which are the ones that are obviously going to decrease by 10%. You guys can see there's a little extra information on here with the spicy, sour, dry, bitter, sweet. Those are kind of pertaining to flavors of berries and stuff like that. We'll talk about that again later in the video, but that's kind of what that means right there. You'll kind of understand that in just a bit, I promise. But for now, let's look at a few of them and kind of see how they affect your Pokemon and the strategies to kind of work with them. So first we have Groudon. Now Groudon has the adamant nature, which means that it's higher in its attack stat and lower in its special attack stat. And the main reason for that is because Groudon is one of our heaviest attackers, so we wanted to make sure that it had a high enough attack stat to overpower other Pokemon, while also being able to save some EVs for our bulk in other categories. So as you guys can see, Groudon doesn't necessarily have the greatest special defense, especially compared to its defense, so we wanted to make sure that we had some extra EVs to be able to put that into special defense to up its bulk. So just to show you how much of an effect these natures have on Pokemon, this Groudon right now has a 209 attack stat, and that is with 156 EVs and having that positive nature and attack. Now if we took away that nature and we just had it as a neutral stat, then it would take it down to there, but if we maxed it out at 252 without that nature, it would only be at 202. So we're using 96 less EVs in the attack stat. However, having it be that positive nature means that it's still going to have 7 higher points in its actual attack stat than it would if it didn't have that nature. And that's absolutely incredible if you ask me. And then also the fact that Groudon doesn't use any special attacks, it really is just a physical attacker. That's part of the reason why it's adamant too, and why we don't mind it being lower in its special attack stat. Next up is Grimmsnarl. Now Grimmsnarl is more of a support Pokemon, especially in the way that we were using it. So obviously it's not going to have the adamant nature. So this one actually has the careful nature, which means it has a higher special defense stat and a lower special attack stat. And the main reason for this is because the matchup for which we were training Grimmsnarl up for, we were really worried about some special fairy attacks. So we wanted to make sure that it had that little extra bulk in the special defense to be able to withstand those attacks. And obviously, kind of like what we had with Groudon, it doesn't use any special attacks. It really is purely a physical attacker if it is going to attack. So that's why we didn't mind knocking down its special attack stat. Next up is another strong attacker, however this one being a special attacker, in Calyrex-Shadow. Now this one has the timid nature, which means that it is higher in the speed stat and lower in the attack stat. And the main reason for this is because Calyrex-Shadow is a somewhat common Pokemon up on the ladder. And unfortunately for us, it being a Psychic and Ghost type, it means that it's 4 times weak to a Ghost move. And unfortunately, Astral Barrage, which is the signature move of Calyrex-Shadow, it is a Ghost move and a strong one at that. So unfortunately, if we do see one across the way and we are not going first, chances are we do get wiped out before we even get a chance to move. Of course, we do have Focus Sash on this one, so hopefully that means we do get the chance to move. But if we do max out our speed stat, like you see with this one, it is a true max speed Pokemon. So it has 252 EVs, and it does have the nature positive in speed. It means that we have the best chance possible to be able to go first and be able to get that Astral Barrage before they get theirs off. And of course, because Calyrex-Shadow is a special attacker, again, kind of like with Groudon and Grimmsnarl with their special attack, we don't use any physical attacks, so we don't mind knocking down our physical attack stat. Now, one of my favorite Pokemon to use, Galarian Corsola. Now, this one has the bold nature, which means that it is higher in the defense stat and lower in the attack stat. Main reason for this is because Galarian Corsola really is more of a defensive Pokemon. It really is there as one that, I don't want to necessarily say stalls another Pokemon out, but with Will-O-Wisp, Strength Sap, which allows you to heal up energy while simultaneously lowering the attack stat of another Pokemon, makes it so that you can really last out there on the battlefield for quite some time. And with this, Galarian Corsola does have a pretty big weakness to Dark-type Pokemon. And at least in the matchups that we were seeing a lot of physical Dark-type attacks. So we wanted to really beef up our defense and make sure that we could really withstand those Dark-type moves. And Corsola here is pretty interesting as well because the fact that it only has Nightshade as an attacking move here, which doesn't really take attack or special attack stat into consideration. It's a move that just does damage equal to the level of the Pokemon it's hitting. So, especially here on the ladder, it's going to do 50 damage. So we really don't care about our attack or our special attack stats. So really, we could have even gone Impish here instead of Bold because that would be plus defense and minus special attack. But really, we just decided to go Bold here because that's what Galarian Corsola is. Also, one quick tip, if you guys are using a Pokemon that does use Eviolite, make sure that you tailor your EVs to make sure that your defense and special defense stats come out to an even number. The reason for that is because Eviolite does increase your defense and your special defense by 50%. However, if it is an odd number, it's not going to round up to the next number. So having an even defense and special defense stat will allow you to get the most out of your Eviolite. Next is Galarian Slowbro. That really kind of takes us off the beaten path of these last four Pokemon that had natures that were lower in the attack or the special attack stat, whichever one they weren't using. Because Galarian Slowbro is a Trick Room Pokemon. Now, if you guys have used Trick Room before, you guys know that essentially this reverses the order of moves. So the slower Pokemon is going to go faster than the faster Pokemon. So what you really want to do is make sure that your speed is as low as possible when you're in Trick Room to kind of guarantee that you're going to go first in any situation. So in this one, it is a quiet-natured Pokemon, which means it is up in its special attack and lower in its speed. So what this does is bring its speed stat all the way down to 45, which is a lot slower than a lot of other Pokemon. So when we are in Trick Room, it is going to go a lot faster. Plus, it is a pretty strong special attacker as well, which is why we have that nature and special attack too. So this one's really interesting because you really don't have a stat that's really being negatively affected here. Obviously, speed is, kind of being lower than what it should be compared to like other Pokemon of this type. However, if you are using it in a Trick Room sense, you are getting a benefit out of being slower. So not only do you get a higher special attack, but you're also slower, so being in Trick Room, it's going to benefit you a lot more. Now finally, we have one of the most interesting Pokemon in the Pokemon universe. We have Shedinja. Now Shedinja is the naughty nature, and we did that for two reasons. Number one, we really wanted to maximize its attack stat, while also kind of minimizing one of its worthless stats, in this case, special defense. The second reason, we thought it was funny. Now the main reason why Shedinja's defense and special defense are pretty much worthless is because it only has 1 HP. So no matter how bulky you are in defense or special defense, you're still going to get knocked out by an attack. Obviously, if you have Focus Sash, you are going to stay in for that extra turn, but if you don't have that to protect you, you are pretty much going to get knocked out. So really, realistically, we could have even done the nature that is plus attack and minus defense. But again, kind of like what we did with Galarian Corsola, it just kind of ended up being this way. We had to choose one or the other, and we picked the one that we thought was going to be more interesting. So those are some examples about natures and how they work with specific roles. So now that you know how natures work and why a certain Pokemon might want a specific nature, here are some tips as to how you can get the natures that you're looking for and how they affect certain things about other Pokemon. If you are trying to breed Pokemon to get better stats, but you really want to pass along that nature, the most important thing you can do is to give your female Pokemon or the Ditto that is in the daycare an Everstone. So the Everstone typically is an item that a Pokemon holds if you don't want it to evolve anymore. However, if you do give it to a Pokemon that is in the daycare that you are breeding with, you are guaranteed, at least from Pokemon Black and White 2 going forward, you are guaranteed to pass along that nature to your offspring. So again, if you really want to be able to pass that nature along to a Pokemon, make sure your Pokemon is holding the Everstone. Another fun tip is that if you do have a Pokemon with the ability Synchronize and you put them at the head of your party, you are guaranteed, if you encounter a Pokemon in the wild, for that Pokemon to have the same nature as the Pokemon that you have at the head of your party. I know right here it says that there's a 50% chance, however, starting in Pokemon Sword and Shield, they up that to 100%. So that is a really good way for you to get a nature that you really want on a Pokemon that you're hunting in the wild. So like I said, natures also kind of affect Pokemon in other ways too, and Toxtricity is the one that really kind of gets affected the most by this. So as you can see here, Toxtricity has two different forms. It has the Amp form and the Low-Key form. The nature of Toxel when it evolves determines what form of Toxtricity you're going to get. There isn't a huge difference between the two, however there are a couple differences. First is the fact that they do have a different color scheme. One is yellow and purple, the other is blue and purple. Not going to say which one I think is better, but Low-Key form is dope. Also, their abilities are a little bit different. They do have two of the same abilities, however, one of their other abilities for Toxtricity's Amped form is plus, and for the Low-Key form is minus. And there are a couple different moves that both of them get that are different from the other one. So it makes it a little interesting. It's not a huge difference, but it's really fun when you think about it. I mean, you don't think that natures are really going to affect Pokemon in other ways than kind of in battle, but here we go. Toxel was a fun one for this. And obviously, to be able to get the Amp form, you need to have a Toxel that is either hardy, brave, adamant, naughty, docile, impish, lax, hasty, jolly, naive, rash, sassy, or quirky. I'm sorry, I am going to read the rest of these out. And if you want the Low-Key form, which again, I think is the better one, it either has to be lonely, bold, relaxed, timid, serious, modest, mild, quiet, bashful, calm, gentle, or careful. And if you actually look at these natures specifically, they do kind of correspond to either amped or low-key. Obviously, like lonely, bold, timid, serious, those are kind of more low-key, I guess, adjectives to describe something. Whereas hardy, brave, adamant, that's more kind of like amped. So again, not something you would really kind of think about going into a Pokemon game, but the fact of the matter is, natures really do a lot more than just affect the stats of your Pokemon. Last but not least, we're going to talk about something that I kind of alluded to earlier in the video, and that deals with these flavorings right here, the spicy, sour, dry, bitter, sweet. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have encountered berries, or if you guys have gone to the camp and made curry, you've seen a spicy curry or a dry curry or something like that. Well, that kind of corresponds to this a little bit. And what the nature does is really affect the favorite and the least favorite flavoring of a certain Pokemon. So for instance, if you have a Pokemon that is mild, which means it is up in special attack and down in defense, that means that dry will be its favorite flavor and sour will be its least favorite flavor. Well, that doesn't seem like it's really going to make much of a difference. That really could be a good way to really up your friendship with a Pokemon. And plus you have different berries out there right now, like the Figgy Berry and the Wiki Berry, where it actually heals up a Pokemon more than like a citrus berry would do. However, if the Pokemon is not a fan of that flavoring, it will become confused after it consumes it. So you need to be careful with what type of berry it is and the type of nature that your Pokemon is as well. And of course the berries, because they want to make things a little difficult for you, they don't necessarily tell you what flavoring that is in the game. It's something you kind of have to either figure out on your own or look up online as well. So again, next time you're cooking curry or you are giving a berry like that to a Pokemon that you want to use in battle, you want to make sure that it's not a flavoring that they're going to dislike. That way they don't become confused in battle. So that's pretty much all you guys need to know about natures. And if I miss anything, guys, please let me know down in the comments. And if you guys do have any other questions about this or any other topics, let me know down in the comments as well, and I can make follow-up videos or any other videos to kind of help you on your competitive journey. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to go down and drop a like, and we'll see you guys next time.